All right, perfect. So, reminders and reminder emails is our training topic today. Thank you all once again for coming. Let's go ahead and get started on this FirePro demo system. So many of you might notice the reminders module in FirePro, and it is one that sometimes I think that maybe people don't use as much as they could. Possibly that is because what tends to happen with reminders is that if you're not curating the reminders, your reminders are going to get somewhat out of date and somewhat old when you first start working in the reminders module, or there might be a very limited number of reminders that you see in here. Now, one of the things that I like to recommend in order to make getting your reminder notifications a little bit easier is that in the file menu of FirePro, there's an option called Preferences. Preferences is got a number of settings that relate to your individual FirePro user account. So the first thing that we see on the Preferences window is a Startup tab. The Startup tab sets exactly what modules open automatically when you log into FirePro. This can make it really easy to have the system automatically pop up the particular places you might need to work. But one of the things that I like to do is to set it so that the reminders module pops up automatically as soon as I log in. So what this is going to do for me, let's just get somebody in here, is that when I go into the system, I can log in and automatically my reminders pop up on the screen. I'm also going to show us today how to customize the exact reminders that your user profile sees, which can be really helpful when I'm making sure that I only see the very specific reminders that I want. So setting the reminders to pop up automatically can be really helpful. Just got a few more people showing up. Okay, so when I am dealing with reminders in the system, there's a couple different ways that FirePro creates reminders. One is that it creates reminders fairly automatically based on certain information that you might put into the program. So for example, if I look at one of these years of service reminders, I'll just expand the window a little so we can see that. These years of service reminders, if I double click on this personnel record, I can see that this person has a hired date of February 22nd, 2020. The software then has automatically generated a 1 year years of service reminder for 2021. So just based on hired date, the software will generate a range of different reminders for 1 year, 5 year, 10-year service notifications, for example. Likewise, if we're looking at something more along the lines of an inventory item expiring, I can double click on this inventory item and actually see that there is an expiry date here. The expiry date has been generated based on the expected life of the piece of equipment and the manufactured date. So a lot of these reminders are just created automatically based on you putting in a certain basic information in the program. It is also possible to create custom reminders directly. So if I use the green plus button in the reminders module, I can generate a custom reminder for myself. Every reminder in the program has 2 dates associated with it. So the first date associated with a reminder is what we would call a due date. And this is normally the date that the reminder is due. And the date by which you want to go ahead and actually create, have this reminder dealt with. Let's just get another person in here. So there is also what we call a notification date. So we see these 2 dates when we look at reminders in the reminders list. The notification date is generally set in advance of the due date and is the date that the reminder will automatically pop up on your reminder to-do list. So in this case, I might say, I want to go November 1st, 2021 as my reminder. Well, let's go something a little more current, but so we can set my notification dates in advance. Then I have a message, do this thing. I can associate reminders with specific stations if I want to do that. Individual stations will be used to filter reminders for users so that they only see stuff that are related to their own stations. But in this case, I can save this custom reminder, and I can see once I sort by notification date, we're gonna have to scroll up a little bit here. I have my do this thing reminder will start to pop in the 2021 time period where is a whole bunch of stuff. So the issue of going through all this stuff from 2021 is a good segue into the next part of managing your reminders in the system, because the software will generate a really large number of reminders throughout the program. Let's get up to about November 1st, and we should have a do this thing reminder right in there in November 1st. However, I can see on here that I have a lot of reminders going back through, say, 2020, 2021, and those reminders might not necessarily be particularly applicable to me anymore. I don't need to worry about them. So the simple way to clear out old reminders is to you can left click and drag to highlight groups of reminders on this list. You can hold down the control key to highlight individual reminders if you want. You can hold down the shift key to select, click a whole bunch of different reminders. However you do that, let's just go in and select everything from 2021 and earlier. Scroll all the way down here. Hold down shift to highlight all these. You can see I've got all these reminders highlighted now. I can right click on the window and select dismiss, and that will remove all those reminders from my current reminder set. It doesn't delete the reminders, but it does clear them out so that you don't have to look at them anymore unless you decide you want to. So now I can see I've got all my older reminders cleared out. I could also do the reminders from 2022 if I wanted to do that. But this goes into talking a little bit about how reminders are displayed and the information associated on reminders. So when you go into the reminders module in FirePro, we have an automated search which we run for you, which is called Reminders Do. And what the Reminders Do search does is that it searches for reminders based on the reminder's notification date. And it shows every reminder on this list that has a notification date of today or earlier. So if I scroll down, I'm not going to see anything with a notification date later than August 3rd. There's lots more reminders. I'll get you how to get the reminders back in 1 second. So there's lots more reminders than just these ones by notification date. I can use things like due date and look into the future and say, show me all reminders that are due, say, this year, for example. But the automated Reminders Do search only looks for reminders based on their due date, by their notification date of today and earlier. You can also filter reminders by different reminder types. So the standard search includes all reminders, but this might not necessarily be appropriate for each individual person. I should also note that this search only looks for active reminders. If you wanted to see a dismissed reminder, you can toggle the status to dismissed, see any reminders that you have dismissed in the system, and right click on that reminder and select activate to bring it back. So these reminders are never exactly deleted, they're just dismissed and brought into the active system. So the standard search looks for active reminders with a current notification date of today or earlier. It also is going to search for all reminders for you automatically. But frequently what happens is that your responsibilities within the fire department don't extend to every different area. You're not responsible for personnel management and inventory, and at least hopefully you're not. So usually what makes sense is to take that larger set of reminders that the system is generating automatically and filter it down for yourself so you're dealing with a smaller reminder set. And the way you do that is by selecting this reminder type and toggling between all and selected. This is going to give you a list of all the different reminders that you can see based on your user permissions in the program. Because these reminders will also automatically be filtered based on the modules that your user profile has access to. If you don't get any access to the inventory module, you won't see any inventory reminders. But if you do see all this stuff, you can say, okay, I am really only interested today in the inventory based reminders, inventory defects, expiries, service records, and warranties. So those are the ones that I particularly need to deal with. I'm going to hit the magnifying glass. That'll run a search to filter for just those reminder types that I have asked for. It's still quite a few reminders, but hey, inventory is a big job. If I want to keep this as the set of reminders that I see by default, then what I can do is save a new search. I save a new search by using this Save Search widget in the lower left-hand corner here. We can see that the default search is set to reminders due, but I can create a new one for myself. So I'm going to use the green plus button down here and say, Jeremy's reminders among many. So I'll save that saved search. Now it's available anytime I want to come back here. So I can go back, close, and reopen the reminders module and toggle down to my reminders. So that's one way of quickly searching for those specific reminders. But if I want those to be the ones I see every time I come into this window, I just need to right-click anywhere in the green and select Set Default Search. Setting the default search is going to set the reminder search for your user profile. It won't affect anybody else in the program, just for you. Select Set Default Search. And now what's going to happen is that when I come into the reminders module, I get that very specific set of inventory item reminders that I wanted without having to run any kind of manual search. And this can be really effective when you combine it with that open the reminders window automatically function, because then when I log into the program, I see the reminders I wanted for the classes of reminders that I wanted pop up automatically for myself. So the idea is that that will very quickly generate a list of applicable reminders for you. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of reminders in FirePro. Some of them are customizable when you are setting up specific classes of say, inventory item, for example. So if I'm doing servicing on inventory, I can actually set as part of the servicing structure, I can say, and we're going to talk about this in another session when we deal specifically with how to organize inventory and how to set up servicing. But when I set up my servicing for inventory, I can set how much advance notice I want and how frequently I want these servicing reminders to run. But that's going to automatically set things like service due date and, more importantly, notification date. Like this particular class of item has notification dates 1 month in advance of when the actual servicing is due. I can also set that kind of advanced notification for other classes of reminder. This is primarily done in the setup menu in the option called custom settings in the other tab under reminders. So we can see on this window, there are a whole bunch of different types of reminders that we can set notification periods for. As a general rule, what happens is that if the notification period for anything is set to 0 months or 0 days, the software will not automatically generate reminders for you. It'll just assume that you don't care too much about that and leave it. So the system there is going to not set these reminders. But if I want to go ahead and say, I would like to get some of these notification reminders. So for example, if we look at years of service, I have a couple different reminder settings that I can populate. One is, how many years do I do it before my first reminder? And then how many years before a one-time reminder? The first reminder and one-time reminder tends to deal with things like if we set 5 years as a first reminder, it will then remind me every 5 years for length of service notifications. And some provinces have like a one-time 12-year reminder, so I can set a 12-year reminder. In both of these cases, if I haven't set a length of service notification, it will just give me the same due date and notification date. But because with things like length of service, you want to be getting that notification a fair bit in advance because it takes some time to order awards and prizes. So for example, I could put a 6-month length of service notification in here to give myself some advance time on the reminder. If you're worried about what the reminder periods are, just hover your mouse over the field and you should get, apparently not today, it should give you a pop-up. Apparently I've turned off pop-ups on this particular user system, but pop-ups will show you how much, what the interval is if you don't see it on the field already. We can already see, like, anytime we see notification or notice, this means how far in advance do you want FirePro to notify you? So for example, if I want my expiry reminder notices 90 days in advance of when the piece of gear expires, put in a 90-day period, save this. And this will then start to create those notifications and reminders in advance of when you do it. So a wide variety of the different reminders can be customized in here. And if there's specific reminders that you're looking for that you need a hand with or anything like that, you can set up an appointment with support, talk to us, send us an email. Alternatively, if you are in this tab, you can right-click and select Help, which will bring up the manual that talks about the various different reminder notifications and how things work. So it's available through the manual as well. So the reminder periods you can customize quite a bit. You can also do a thing with reminders called snoozing a reminder. So say, for example, I have a new reminder. If we look down here, I'll say I have a recent reminder that replacement is due for this item, but I don't want to deal with this quite yet. I would like to, well, let's go actually sort by notice date here. All right, so I have that this particular battery is expiring for this item. I don't want to deal with this quite at the moment. I want to push it back about a week. So what I can do is I can right-click on the reminder and select snooze. So snooze will push, by default, push the reminder notification date forward a week, basically saying, I'm not going to deal with this for about a week. It will take it off the current active list of reminders, but in a week, it will pop back up as showing in. So I'm not in any tabs. I'm just in the reminders list. If we're talking about how to customize reminders, that's in the Setup, Custom Settings, Other, Reminders tab. So it's the reminder section if we want to customize. So snoozing reminders allows you to just really quickly roll reminder dates forward, where I say, okay, I do want to deal with this, but I want to just have it be something that I deal with in a week instead of right now. That can be a nice way to push a reminder forward without having to dismiss it or remember to come back and look at it. This is especially effective if you're kind of keeping your reminders up to date. Another thing that's going to happen is that when you do work in specific records, that will also automatically update the reminders. So for example, if I see my flow test notification or my service notification for this pack and I do the service, I can come in here and say, okay, service is done. We did a service today. And I save that. What that's going to do is automatically update that reminder, roll it forward into the future, and dismiss the current reminder that you're dealing with. So just the process of dealing with some of these reminders flagging that a particular inventory item has in fact expired and we have retired it, for example, can be a very good way to once again clear that reminder out so that you're not getting notification anymore because you've dealt with that particular reminder. Now, when we are dealing with reminders, one of the other things that can be really helpful with reminders is having FirePro send reminder emails out to specific people with notifications on those reminders in them. So in order to set up the reminder emails, the first thing that we have to do is think about who is supposed to get these reminder emails. And we're going to be able to set reminder emails based on classes of reminder and by individual station. So if I have different stations who have different people responsible for things like inventory servicing, I'm going to need to set up separate templates so that they get their own reminders. So the reminder templates are set in the email module under the templates tab. We try to keep it straightforward. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a template for a specific set of people in one station to get a certain type of reminder. So I'm going to use the green plus button to create a new template. I'm going to call this one Station 1 Inventory Service. I don't need to set, if I don't want to, I don't need to set anything in terms of the sender's email address, the email subject. A lot of this stuff is just going to get populated automatically by the reminder. I can set it if I want to, but I don't have to. What I can do, though, is go into my recipients, and I need to create several recipients for this email. I'm just going to maximize this so we can see it full size. So when I create a new recipient, I have a wide variety of different things that I can do in terms of automating my recipient list. One of the things that can be really handy is that I can send the recipient to an individual personnel, but I can also send it to a personnel grouping or a particular squad or a particular rank. If you select these kind of options, the recipients will be set dynamically based on what's in FirePro right now when you go to send this reminder email. So for example, if I had a personnel group along the lines of service management, I can say, send it to the service management group, and that would automatically pick the people who are in that group every time I send it. In this case, I'm going to say, let's send it to one personnel record. And the software is automatically going to bring up a list of the personnel records showing you their email addresses that are in here. I can go ahead and pick one, or if I hold down Control, several email addresses. So I can pick the people that are in there that I want to have a copy of this sent to. And then I can say that. I personally like to include myself sometimes on these emails, but you want to, calibrate what you're doing based on how many emails you want to receive in a given day. But in this case, I can say, I'm going to go ahead and set those two people in there, or a person in there, as the person who gets these reminder emails. Once I have the template built, I can configure the software to go in and start sending out emails for these reminders. I set that up by going to the Setup menu and selecting the option called Email Reminder Settings. So Email Reminder Settings is going to give me a window where I can create a whole range of different email reminders. You can build email reminders for as many different types of inventory, or not inventory, but reminders in general as you want to, with the understanding that you probably don't want FirePro to be spamming you, so be cautious in terms of how many of these you put in here. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to send an inventory service record reminder. I only want these to be the inventory service records for Station 1. I I can also decide when I'm doing inventory service record emails, do I want to send all inventory service records to these people, or do I want to only send um, service records from particular classes of inventory items? So, for example, if I had a truck captain or some officers who are responsible for managing servicing on the vehicles, I could say send these servicing notifications for apparatuses to these people. But in this case, I could say just any category. I also do need to set a begin date, which is the effective date for reminders that are going to start being sent out. If you use something like Google Calendar or an Outlook calendar, you do have an option of having these reminders create what we call ICS files. So the ICS files are the things that automatically add reminders to your calendars. When you see something like saying, "Do you automatically add this to your calendar?" That's an ICS file. So the ICS file will give you the option of adding things to an external calendar if you need that. Then what I need to do is pick who do I want to send this particular set of reminders to. In this case, I see a list of all those templates that I set up, and I have my Station 1 inventory servicing. So once I start this, what happens is that when FirePro is logged into, every day the system will check to see if there are new reminders and send them out automatically. It's also possible to configure the program to send, instead of sending on login, you can have it send when someone goes into the reminders module. That's done by going into custom settings, going into the other tab under reminders, and saying email reminders from list window. This tends to mean that the system is checking for reminders potentially a little bit less often as opposed to when people are logging in. But it does slow down using the list window a little bit. It's just a different option depending on how frequently you're logging into FirePro. So once I have set that up, then the reminders are going to start to get sent automatically. When those reminders are sent, it's going to put a date that the email has been sent in here. So let me just sort by notice date. So what I can do is if I right click on here, now I can select resend reminder email. So this particular email doesn't have any email rules because it's not attached to Station 1. Or actually that one should be, but we'll take a look at that. So the email date's going to send out the notification on there. Let's see. Yeah, so yeah. So I will walk you through that again, Mike, when we get to the end there. So let's see if I can resend it now. Yeah. Okay. So oh yeah, I've got the wrong date set for these. So the system will start to email these reminders out. And it will give you an email date as far as when those reminders are flagged to be sent or have been sent. It will also take any email for reminders that you've sent and display them in the email section. So what I'm going to do is set a more generic reminder email so that I can, I'm going to say, service records. Okay. All right. So once I am in a reminder now, so as you start to go forward, these reminders will start to get sent automatically. But if you resend any reminders, all right, so flag to be emailed. So that is ready to go out now. Once I restart things, then it will automatically resend this. Let's just double check, make sure it's doing that. way I want it to. Right. So emails now are going to start to get sent out. It will keep track of, go back to my homepage. It will keep track of emails through the email tab of the system. And you would start to get emails going out of the system for the specific classes of reminder that you want. Once you've started doing this, you can usually start to expand the range of the different email reminders that you're doing. You can have a whole range of different classes of reminder, usually for different stations or different people. And that will go ahead and start to build out a set of reminders in there. Another class of reminders, a type of reminder that you can do is that for certain types of reminders that you set, these reminders might relate to an individual member of the department. So for example, an inventory let's get this sized a little bit better. If we're doing something like a certificate reminder, where a certificate is coming up as due and needs to be recertified, one of your options in there is that you can use the send to affected personnel option. So that will mean that in addition to the people that are on the email template that you select, it will also automatically send an email to the person whose certificate is expiring. And you can do this for any certificates or for very specific certificates if you want to do that. So by setting that up to send to affected personnel, you can make sure that the person that is notified directly in addition to anybody that you want to have notified in the general department that these are coming up as due. So by setting a variety of templates, you can build a whole range of different types of certificates, and we can see on here that there are a really fairly large amount of different types of reminders that the system will notify on. And you can have those go out to both individual people and specific sets of members of the department if you want to do that. If you're looking to get that set up, then we're happy to set up a scheduled session where we go in, help you identify exactly what you want to do, and do the actual setup for that with you. It's also certainly possible for you to set a variety of reminders and just highlight them, right click and select resend reminder emails. And again, those will go out the next time that FirePro checks and sends out email notifications. Now, Mike had a question about, he missed the part about setting reminders. So when you open FP2, you have expired items or when inspections need to happen. Right. So 2 stages to setting up that to happen automatically. So the first stage is you go into File, go into your Preferences menu for your window account, and set in the Startup tab, the reminders are going to pop up automatically. That will open the reminders module for you when you log into the system. The next thing that's going to happen there is that you're going to want to set a specific custom reminder search for yourself, which shows you the specific classes of reminder that you want. So in this case, I might say, I am really only interested in my inventory expiry reminders, and I would also like to see my periodic inspections reminders. So periodic inspections is the reminders that come up when particular properties have an inspection due on them. So those are the ones that I want. And what I'll do is I'll create a new saved search, call them expiry. I'll spell this right eventually. And inspections, call it whatever I want. Once I've got that saved, I right click on the window and select set default search for myself. So now what's going to happen is when I log in, I get the reminders module with my expiry reminders and my periodic inspection reminders. I can also mess around with some of the sorts in here. If I sort by notification date, this one, that's cool. That's going to be handy. Um, uh, yeah, 2053. Um, or 1953. That one expired a while ago. So you can get these to pop up automatically. And you can also clear some of these reminders by highlighting, right click, and select dismiss. So when you're setting up reminders, you want to send it to a specific group of people. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. So one would be if you look in the personnel module in the program, on each individual personnel record under the employment tab, there's a tool called groups. So with the groups function, you can create as many different types of groups within the department as you want. And you could do something in here like service crew as a group. So what I can do then is say this person is on the service crew. This person is on the service crew. This can also be combined with station when we're looking at how we're sending this stuff out. But an arbitrary group would allow you to then go in when you're setting up your email templates and say, I would like to create a template called service group template. And when I go into my recipients, I can go in and say, show me everybody, send this to people from the service crew group. So that's going to go in, and anytime it sends this reminder, it'll just look and say, who's in the service crew right now, include all those people in this reminder, and send them out. So that's a dynamic way of doing a specific group. If you wanted to do more of an arbitrary group, you can just go into the recipients on the template and say, these people are the ones, well, let's find ones who have an email address. These people are the ones that are in my group that I want to go ahead and add. So that's going to allow you to create an arbitrary group of people. I'd say one personnel, and then I can add more personnel. So setting up the group arbitrarily just lets me go in and pick which people I want exactly to be included in that. So kind of two different ways to set up the templates, but it's the templates, not the reminders themselves, which are going to be determining who gets these. So in order to, when you're setting up the reminder settings, you can't on an individual reminder say, these are the individual people that are supposed to get it. You say, this is the template that's supposed to get this reminder, and you can include individual people in it if you want to do that. Affected personnel can also include things like the assigned inspector, if we're dealing with inspection stuff. And so, for example, if we go in and say, I want to do an inspection follow-up reminder, we have an option here. Rather than sending it to a specific template, or in addition to sending it to a template, we can say, send this to the inspector, which means that the particular officer who's assigned to this inspection already is the one that will get that reminder automatically, as opposed to just spamming it out. So there's a fair range of different options when we're setting up emails. There's a lot of different types of reminders throughout the program. Those can include things like when alarm tests have been created and when alarm tests need to be reinspected, certificates and certificate recerts, consumables if you're dealing with using consumable tracking through FirePro, hydrant logs and servicing, daily logs, driver's license expiries, a whole range of stuff on inspections with follow-ups. The inventory set can include things like when inventory gear is due back, if it's been assigned to people, notifications that new inventory defects have been created, service records and expiries. Inventory records have warranties logs on them that can give you reminders that warranties are expiring, incident invoices, multiple alarm properties if you want to get notifications. If there's multiple alarms, we can see notice of absences when people are coming back from time off, periodic inspections for scheduled inspections, of a whole range of custom reminders as well. So the program has a lot of different reminder options that are available. And if you see any of these in the selected set that you're interested in learning more about, then we can certainly give you a rundown on where those come from and how to set them up. But the vast majority of them are created largely automatically for things. So what we want to think about here is our process for sending out automated emails is build a template in the email template system for the people that you want to be notified for this particular class of reminders. Then go into the setup menu under email reminder settings and build an email reminder log. That's going to need to include a begin date. The reminder types are going to be available based on the modules for FirePro that you have and the configuration settings. We can certainly talk about other reminders, like there are some custom reminder options, for example. If we look under custom settings for properties, for example, there is the ability to set up a custom reminder associated with properties. Building this would automatically add that to your reminder set. This particular one is frequently used for getting reminder notifications on addresses that need to have regular fire alarm drills or something in addition to a standard reminder. So there's some scope for creating reminders, but mostly those are based on all the different automated processes or reminders that you've toggled on in the system. So usually the best choice on there is get in touch with us and we'll talk about what's the best way to generate that reminder that you're looking for. Likewise, you can have in the burn permit, or sorry, in the, well, this department doesn't have it, but if they're in the alarm tests, for example, you can set up specific notifications for reminders for alarm test reinspection. So if you've turned on the label for this and put in the date, then that will start to show up as a reminder in the reminders module. Lots of scope there.